the CEO disguised himself as a worker and went to inspect the construction site under his company. He found that the workers were only having thin soup for meals, while the supervisor on the site was feasting on big fish and meat. He tried his best to hold back his anger and handed in his resume, but the supervisor directly assigned him the dirtiest and most tiring jobs. The supervisor also emphasized that wearing safety helmets was mandatory on the site, and each safety helmet cost $200. However, the CEO found that the quality of the safety helmet was very poor. He just gently pulled the rope of the safety helmet, and it broke. Then he knocked the safety helmet he just bought against the supervisor's one. The one in his hand instantly had a big hole in it. The CEO could no longer suppress his anger. He angrily accused the supervisor of not only providing poor food for the workers, but also not caring about the workers' lives. But the supervisor said that he was in charge here. He not only threatened to fire the CEO but also tried to hit him. Just then, the project manager suddenly showed up. The supervisor quickly reported that this new worker had objections to the safety helmets purchased by the manager. However, the manager slapped the supervisor because he thought that anyone who came to the site must have a special background. So the manager tentatively asked the CEO if he had any relatives in the group. The CEO thought it wasn't the right time yet and said he had no backing. Hearing this, the manager immediately changed his attitude. He angrily scolded the CEO for meddling in other people's business. With the manager's support, the supervisor became extremely arrogant. He told the CEO that if he wanted to stay, he had to follow all his orders. The CEO was so angry that he was speechless. At this time, the manager gathered all the workers. He told the workers that he had just fetched their salaries from the group headquarters, but if the workers wanted to get their pay, they had to buy a box of tea from his wife's shop. The workers were extremely desperate when they heard this, because a box of tea cost $5,000, which was half a year's salary for the workers. But the supervisor warned the workers that this was the rule. If they didn't follow it, they wouldn't get a single cent of their salary. The CEO couldn't stand it any longer. The money the workers earned with their lives was being snatched away by them in such a way. An old worker pleaded with the manager not to force them to buy the tea, because his son was ill in the hospital and he needed the money. However, the supervisor angrily fired him. The old man was so scared that he knelt on the ground, begging the manager not to fire him, but the supervisor beat him severely. The CEO quickly called his assistant and asked her to come to the site immediately. Then he revealed his identity to seek justice for the old man, but the manager didn't believe his identity at all. He even ordered the assistant to beat the CEO up. At this moment, the manager received a message that someone from the group headquarters was coming for an inspection. Not long after, the assistant arrived at the construction site. The manager had already prepared a grand welcome ceremony. He even smiled and offered expensive gifts, but the assistant remained expressionless. She was going to make these two parasites of the company pay a heavy price.